The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. Hello, everyone. I am Sophia Melone, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. I want to welcome you guys to our final live check-in during our 30-day Financial Literacy Month challenge. We are now on day 29, and we have one more day remaining inside of this challenge. But our live stream today is going to serve as our final check-in thus far. We have been going day after day. Hopefully you all have been picking up the nuggets based on the shorts that have been shared on the face of the Debt Demolisher TV. And not only have you been looking at the shorts, but hopefully you have been going to the full lesson that takes you to what the topic of the day was intended to be. Now that we are in the last week and literally the day before the last day of the month in terms of April, I'm going to high level go over some of the conversations that we had from days 23 through day 29. So on day 23, it was a brief snippet reminding folks of the reason why you need to pay yourself first. So this was a snippet from, I think it was a internet kind of radio show or news show that I did years ago. And I met with Monica on her show, and we were talking about finances and reserves and building reserves. And the really peak of it was during the pandemic, because I actually met with her once we kind of went on lockdown. So it might have been like in 2020, early 2020, when this happened. And I wanted to remind folks who was either watching or listening, and also to regurgitate the reminder for day 23, was to make sure that we pay ourselves first. Many of us might have heard the common phrase of pay yourself first in wealth books or through popular speakers. I know it's not a term that I didn't make up. It's been well known by others and well said by many others, but it's a very imperative point and action that we need to take as everyday human beings, and that's learning to pay ourselves first. I remember when I started not even before I started my debt elimination journey, I knew that I wasn't paying myself at all. So I would spend all of my resources. I would buy things with it, or I would use it to pay off credit cards, or I would use it to travel. I would give it to people. I was just really, really not good with my money back in the day. And that was because I didn't really understand the concept of keeping it. To me, it felt like resources needed to be spent and needed to be exuded. And so that's exactly, or expended rather, and that's exactly what I did. And when I started my debt elimination journey, a year and a half into it was when I realized and noticed that I needed to stop paying myself, because I wasn't paying myself at all. And when I was using the same approach with my debt elimination journey, whereby I was just paying everything off, taking all the extra money, all the excess funds, paying it off, as opposed to kind of being a little bit more strategic and different with the resources. Once I noticed that things were still happening and I needed to come up with money, or I needed to pay for things that I wasn't expecting to have to pay in that particular instance, I realized that I needed to start saving. So the day 23 emphasized paying yourself first. So pay yourself first so that you can save yourself later, was the quote that I said inside of that video. And I truly still stand by it to this day, despite people saying that the dollar is weakening and we're in a recession, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, you're going to need resources if you are living in this country. So you can do what you want, but I know what I'm going to do. You can do what you want, but I know what I'm going to do. But at the end of the day, I've learned my lesson. Years and years and years of inappropriate resource management when I was working and when I had income coming in. Even in my earlier years, when I started working at 14, I used those resources to spend on things because I had two small shoes growing up. And I told myself when I got my first paycheck that I would never have another small pair of shoes. And so I used my money to buy shoes, to buy clothes, to feel better about myself. And then that just kind of spiraled on for me. Woo, you guys, I'm winded today. But I think I see somebody in the chat. Let me see. Let me open this up. Awesome. Q Scott is here. Q Scott says that she's going to catch it later. She's at a big citywide event, but hope everyone has a blessed Saturday. Happy Saturday to you too, Q Scott. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy your event. Enjoy your event. So that was day 23. Day 24, I wanted to introduce a saving strategy that I feel like could really help folks. So there's one thing to tell someone to do something, but it's another thing to give them maybe some insight that could help them decide their approach to doing that. So we talked on day 24 about getting your coins up and using the saving strategy that you could potentially consider using, not saying that it's something that you need to do or that you have to do, but if you want to get your juices flowing and just trying to figure out what are the best ways in which you can begin to increase your reserve or save up your resources. I talked about a strategy inside of that video for day 24. For me, automation is the best kept secret. I live by set it and forget it so that it can grow. And when you set it and forget it so that it can grow, you will train yourself to work on, to work on, to work off of, and to live off of whatever is left. So when I started to pay myself first aggressively and really set specific savings goals and investment goals and where I wanted my resources and things to go, I got really strict. And in order for me to take my hand off of the process, I set it up for automations. So when you set things up, you set up your allocations, you set up your automatic withdrawals or transfers, however you want to call it, you will definitely begin to see your resources grow. So day 24 emphasized that. Day 25 talked about filling up your financial cup, because so many times we can exude so much energy, whether it be trying to care for someone else, whether it be trying to do for someone else, whether it be trying to be a benefit to someone else, that we oftentimes drain ourselves to the point of no return. And when you're draining yourself to the point of no return, in those instances, you can begin to not only see the depletion in your account, but you'll also begin to feel depleted emotionally, physically, mentally, and sometimes even spiritually. So when you find a way to fill up your financial cup, that is the purpose of day 25, to help introduce ways in which you can begin to think about that. Instead of focusing on the feelings of being drained, how can you focus on the feelings of ways in which you can fill your financial cup up, whether it be paying yourself, whether it be doing small things for you, whether it be doing things in moderation, whatever that looks like. Day 25 can help you with mapping out that strategy and mapping out that approach for yourself. Day 26, we talked about committing to your financial future. So if you've noticed the trend, this week was all about wealth creation, wealth preservation, and wealth preservation and accumulation as well, because we are thinking about the ways in which we can grow our resources so that it can benefit not only us in the future, but also our legacy. So day 26, is that what I just said? Yeah. Yeah, day 26. Yeah, day 26, we talked about committing to your financial future and what that looks like. I really appreciated this lesson, even though it was 9 minutes long, because many times we forget to put ourselves at the top of the pay list. And that was one of the things that I know that I did not do, or that I did do because I forgot to put myself at the top of the pay list, because I was at the bottom of the pay list or I wasn't on the pay list at all. So with me restructuring things and just saying, now from this state, I pay me, I pay the Lord, I pay me, and then I pay everyone else. That's been my order since 2018, 2017, maybe 2017, maybe early 2018. Set it, not only set it and forget it, but I pay the Lord, I pay me, and I pay everyone else. It's been my motto. It has been a very beneficial approach but there are times where, your resources do need to be used. And so they will end up being depleted, but then you just have to have a strategy in place to replenish those funds. So when you commit to your financial future, you're committing to your decision to prioritize you at the top of the pay list, whatever that may look like. I oftentimes say, I don't care if it's $1, I don't care if it's $2, I don't care if it's $10. The fact of the matter is we have to get into the practice of learning to pay ourselves consistently. Because when you get into the habit of doing something, it will become second nature. And when it becomes second nature, that means you really don't have to put too much level of effort into that particular task or that particular action that you're doing. But if you allow yourself to continue to say, hey, my order is I pay the Lord, I pay me, then I pay everyone else. As long as I'm at the top of the pay list instead of being at the bottom of the pay list, we get into the practice of doing that. And that shows our commitment to our financial future. All right. I see Tiani is in here. Tian, how are you? Hello, hello, hello. We're just getting started. I'm going over some of the recaps of our lessons for this week. We are closing out our 30-day challenge for Financial Literacy Month. So that will be closing out tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last lesson. But this will serve as our last formal check-in related to the challenge that we've been doing on a weekly basis for our live check-ins. So if you haven't had an opportunity to jump into any of the lessons, there are the shorts on the face of the page, and the shorts can take you to the full lesson that you'll be able to see if you want to be able to listen to all of them at your own leisure. Day 27, we talked about why you need to keep your buckets filled. As you can see, the theme is about saving, wealth creation, and so forth. And I spoke heavily, or I selected these lessons heavily for this week because I don't want us to forget the whole purpose of financial literacy and why we are doing the things that we need to do inside of our financial lives and taking this financial literacy initiative seriously, because what we do with the resources that we have will determine how it will work best for us, not only for our future, but also for our legacy. So with day 27, focusing on why you need to keep your cash reserves filled, we know that the pandemic was a prime example of this, because no one was expecting to lose their jobs. No one was expecting for the world to shut down, so to speak. No one was expecting for their recurring revenue sources to suddenly stop. And with many people living paycheck to paycheck, it caused them to really be in a detrimental situation in terms of how they were going to sustain their livelihood. So one of the things I mentioned in day 27 in the making sure that you keep your buckets filled is because of this very thing. We don't know when something is going to happen inside of our life and inside of the life that allows us to generate the income to take care of ourselves. So in the lesson for day 27, we talked about the different buckets. I shared how I have 4 different buckets. I have an insurance bucket. I have an emergency fund bucket. I have an anticipated expense bucket. And I also have my wealth building bucket. So all of these different buckets have different meanings, and they are all being poured into each and every time I receive some form of resources, with the understanding that these buckets are intended to be used at some point in time. It is expected that it will need to undergo some form of replenishment at some point. So with day 27 focusing on filling your buckets or keeping your buckets filled, or why you need to maintain a reserve, I talked about all of those things and even gave my own specific strategy and approach on how I tackle things when it comes to my reserves. Even when it has to be used for whatever reason, I'm making sure that that replenishment strategy gets identified quickly, and whatever action step that I can put in place to exercise that replenishment to get that wheel moving is what I end up doing. It's what I end up doing. Very true. Yep, it's very true. Very true. Now, day 28 allowed us to talk about reflecting on your month. I know it's not quite the last day of the month yet, and I didn't want that to be the last lesson that I shared with you all for this challenge. So it was structured to be day 28's lesson with reflecting on your financial month. The intention for this particular lesson was to remind everyone the importance of kind of doing a debrief and a recap on how your spending went. When tomorrow comes, I'm going to be a little bit nervous to look at how my spending went because I know that I did some damage. And even though I know I did some damage, I do understand that I put some increased buffers in place because I noticed the trend from when I was doing my budget allocations and doing my money assessments the weeks before, because my schedule has been crazy. I have been eating out a lot more than necessary, or a lot more than I would like. And I know that there is an exchange that has to happen there. Sometimes you have to pay for convenience and you have to pay for speed also. So with me understanding that and seeing that amount fluctuate so highly when I did my last analysis of my budgets, I decided to increase my buffer for spending out. So I'm going to see when I do my numbers and do my analytics tomorrow to see how everything kind of plays out. And if I feel like I exceeded my increased buffer, then I'm going to have to do some redirection on my end and reevaluation on my end, understanding that I'm really giving up a lot by doing this. I have to figure out how to restructure my time, my days, my plans, so that I could cut costs in that particular area if that's what I want to be able to do. So reflecting on your financial month allows you to kind of go back and look at a glance, do some assessments using formulas, looking at your percentages, looking at your spending activity, identifying fluctuations, doing cash flow analysis, so many different things that could help you get an idea of what's happening, like truly happening from a history standpoint of what you've already done in a month, that can help you with maybe making some adjustments to whatever your budgets, as well as what your spending will be in the upcoming month. So that was day 28. Day 29, which was today, was a long one. And I selected this video with specific intention because last year we did a live financial literacy month dedication to Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, who was the author of The Wealth Choice. And so day by day, we were going live every night, 7 p.m., I want to say, and we took his book 10 pages at a time. So every day last year during the month of April, I had a community post go up with a quote from one of the readings. I had the assignment for everyone to know what chapter we were covering, the pages, and then to let them know to join us inside of the live stream room at 7 to discuss. So we did this every day in April 2022, and the Lord granted favor and allowed us to be able to interview the author of the book, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. And so on the last day of the Financial Literacy Month dedication, we had Dr. Dennis Kimbrough grace our presence inside of the room. And I wanted to include that entire interview as a part of the lesson for this year, as a part of the challenge for this year, because Dr. Dennis Kimbrough dropped so many. And when I say so many, I mean he dropped so many gems, inspiration, wisdom, conviction. I mean, it was just a flooring conversation. And because we're in Financial Literacy Month, and because this week has kind of been geared, not kind of, this week has been geared to wealth creation based on all of the lessons, it was only fitting to kind of close out this week with that 1.5, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah, hour and a half, might have been an hour and 15-minute long interview with Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. And I specifically chose for it to be this day because it'll be on a weekend. You guys will have ample time to be able to listen to the entire interview and take notes for yourself and understand the fact that your legacy is self-made. So there were so many lessons that came out of that interview, but the snippet that I drew to serve as day 29 is that legacy is self-made. You are self-made. Legacy is self-made. And the only thing that we have to do is to decide and choose to operate at our optimum, operate at our maximum peak, operate to the best of our ability. There's another piece that's going to be coming out, spoiler alert. So it's going to be part 2 snippets that's going to be coming out related to the lesson for today. So once that drops, then you all will be able to kind of see the part 2 of it. But I wanted to remind folks of the importance of being resourceful in this season. One thing that I realized this week as I was reflecting on the daily lessons, as I was reflecting on the interview today, and thinking about the things that I encountered during this week and the conversations that I had throughout this week, I realized how much we have available to us. And I also realized that the only thing that is truly holding us back is the thing that we say to ourselves and the conversations that we have from within. So if we believe that we don't have the power to create wealth, then we won't. If we believe that we do not have the power to influence others, then we won't. If we believe that we don't have the ability to make a decision around something that may be difficult, whether it be a financial decision, whether it be a life decision, whether it be a relationship decision, then we won't. So the power lies within our mind, and it ties back to the message that Dr. Kimbrough always says is about choice. The name of his book is The Wealth Choice. So not only you get to choose your wealth, you get to choose everything in life, even if there's circumstances and things that we may not necessarily have wanted to occur in our life, but it does. So the things that have happened in my life growing up in my childhood, I didn't want it, but I learned eventually that I get to decide what I do with myself, what I do with my resources, what I do with the conversations that I have, what I do with my time, and what I do with the relationships that I build. So everything ties down to choice. And that even goes back to the book, Lord, that Dr. Dennis Kimbrough was convicting me on that I still haven't finished. Don't judge me. The book that I was writing, the cover of that is Sophia Melone and the Choice. How ironic is that? And I think one day I was doing a live stream. I can't remember, one day, 2022, we was doing a live stream and the book cover just popped open on my screen randomly. This was earlier in 2022. It had to be because I was still using Zoom to stream. And I remember the thing just popped up and it just startled me because I wasn't expecting to see that open. And I don't know how the book cover just randomly opened, but it was like a mock book cover that I made a long time ago for this big book that I want to write. And if you listen to the lesson that was the assignment, or if you listen to the full video, that was the lesson for day 29, which is the interview with Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, then you would know in that interview, the conversation about authoring a book came up and Dr. Kimbrough read me from left to right during that entire ending of the segment. But even still, to this day, I can't even be mad at the fact that I haven't made any progress towards it, because at the end of the day, it's a choice. At the end of the day, I chose something else over that. At the end of the day, I chose to say I'm mentally exhausted and I don't have the mental capacity to try to write anything. I chose to sit down at the computer and basically, if nothing came up, then I just got up and just said, I'm wasting time. So let me just do something else. These things are choices, and we have to live with those choices. One of the things that I'm undergoing right now, just kind of talking off topic professionally, is a lot of development from a leadership perspective. So there are courses, there are trainings, there are coaching sessions, there are all kinds of things that I'm undergoing right now. And it's reminding me of the very thing that I know, which is choice. You have the ability to choose how you think. You have the ability to choose what you believe. And you also have the ability to choose who you become. And when I think about who I want to become, not just as a person, or not just as a daughter, not just as a child of God, not just as an employee, not just as a friend, not just as a facilitator, not just as um, what can I say? As a student. I'll just say as a student, not just as a student. There's so many ways in which you could stretch yourself to be a better version of yourself. And the reason I'm making these statements is because we can make these same decisions of stretch in our financial fortitude mentally. So if you think about your mental approach to your finances overall, and we can take finances off the table. If you think about your mental approach towards financial education, what and how does it show up for you, or how or best does it serve you? So if you are a natural learner, then I would assume that you will be someone who would like to take in information so that you can digest it. And my hope, of course, is that whatever you set out to learn and 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 take in, that you apply it to your life, because essentially you can't learn anything that you haven't applied. So as a result of learning, it's because of an application, it's because of an understanding, it's because of a process that you ran something through in order to click so that you can get it. So when you think of your financial educational journey, does it create any type of anxiety within you? Or does it spark a sense of encouragement with you that allows you to execute? Or do you feel like by me taking in this information is giving me what I need, but you don't see any change that's happening in your financial life? There's so many ways we can look at this when we're talking about financial literacy, because financial literacy is designed to be able to put you in a position to make informed and the best financial decisions for yourself. So if you're looking at your financial decision-making process, you have to have something that could help you make those decisions. And sometimes it can just be as simple as you asking yourself a set of questions. One of the things that helps me with decision making is, you all know I'm a question person. So because I'm a processor and because I'm a thinker, I ask questions. And in order for things to make sense to me, in order for me to get to a point of decision, I have to run it through a series of questions so that I can make sure that whatever it is that I am about to make a decision on, or I need to make a decision on, that it will allow me to consider all aspects of what may potentially be involved. And sometimes you may not be able to know all of what what is involved on the surface until you ran it through a series of questions, because questions are designed to allow you to think and allow you to ponder on certain things. Okay. I see. I agree. Come on. I see it. 100. I see it. Queen Lisa H with the takeoff stamp is here. Hey, Queen Lisa H with the takeoff stamp. Let's go. Let's go. So glad that you're here. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. So we are waiting to purchase the financial book you want to write. I know. Don't get on me. Don't get on me. Lord, I got to put a plan in place. Not only just a plan in place, I just need to follow the plan. I need the energy to follow the plan. I think, yeah, it'll get done. I just say in due time, it will get done. It will get done. And Tiani is saying hi to Queen Lee Sage with the takeoff stamp. And Queen Lee Sage is saying hi back. Awesome. I'm so glad that y'all are here. So that was day 29. Tomorrow is the last lesson and the last video release for the challenge. Again, there is going to be a bonus part 2 from day 29 that's going to be dropping today. I think it's scheduled to go out in like 15 minutes or so. So that one should be dropping soon. But one thing I want to say for the part 2 of the lesson, if you did not have an opportunity to go back and listen to the whole interview, I know it was the lesson for day 29 is over a lot. It's over an hour long because it was an interview with the author of The Wealth Choice, which is Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. And there was so much packedness out of that conversation. But the reason why I identified a bonus lesson for today was because when you see the part 2 of it, I really want you to answer those questions for yourself. And not only answer those questions for yourself, but also use that as a frame of reference to maybe even ask yourself every single day. Sometimes we put ourselves in a situation where we only do things one time. And as you know, that I've always mentioned and I've always encouraged is that repetition is the key to mastery. And even though you've done something one time, does not mean that you do not have to do it again. The same way when I'm doing the Vet Your Spending Challenge, I do the Vet Your Spending Challenge with y'all every year. And every single time I do something related to that challenge, I do the growth work that's associated with that challenge, I end up getting a new revelation every time, because there is something that I was not able to access a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, however long I've been doing this challenge. But the year in which I'm doing it is another layer that is being tapped and is now at a space where it can be addressed. So just because you've done something once doesn't mean you don't have to do it again. Just because you read The Wealth Choice once and you participated in the live streams that we might have done last year pertaining to The Wealth Choice doesn't mean that you don't have to reread the book again. Doesn't mean that you don't have to redo it and take it 10 pages at a time again for a next 30-day interval. Doesn't mean that you don't have to go back and listen to those live streams to hear the conversations and the revelations that were coming up during those instances. It doesn't mean that you don't have to come back and listen to these 30-day nuggets from this year to get the lessons from these exercises, even if you might have seen the video before. But let's be honest, many of us may watch a video, we may listen to a video, but 9 times out of 10, we have not had an opportunity to exercise the application of the lessons from that particular video. So when you are going through your journey to growth, whether it be financial literacy growth, whether it be financial growth, whether it be intellectual growth, whether it be professional growth, whether it be spiritual growth, whether it be physical growth, regardless of what it is, you're going to have to repeat something. Can I say that again? Regardless of what you are striving to excel in, to grow in, to reap, to leap in, you will have to do it more than once. You will have to do it more than once. So my encouragement to you, while you have the opportunity, do the work that you need to do for your financial betterment, for your financial sanity, for your financial future. And we know sometimes these conversations may be hard, which is why the intention behind the videos that were selected for this month's 30-day challenge, specifically not only tied to wealth creation, not only tied to savings, not only tied to budgeting, it also tied to the money mindset, the frame of mind that you need to have to even approach a journey like this. Because some of us have financial horrors, some of us have financial trauma, some of us have financial scarcity, some of us have financial influence, and sometimes that influence can be negative, but it can also be positive. But again, this ties to the choice that you are willing to make to determine which route you want to be able to move forward in. So the decision is always yours, fam. The decision is always yours. So I want to remind you that your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. You already know what I'm going to tell you to do, and that's going to be make sure that you look out for the bonus short tip that'll be dropping soon. And then also catch the final lesson of this 30-day challenge that you don't want to miss, because that final lesson is going to bring it all the way home. It's going to bring it all the way home. As you know, I'm available for questions, comments, concerns that you may have. By all means, just feel free to either leave a comment on the video that you're watching, and I will be sure to get to it during my planned response times, okay? Because I'm on a schedule. Somewhat, I'm on a schedule. All right, everybody. Your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. You already know what I'm going to tell you to do, and that is what? Get to work. All right, guys. Bye. Thanks so much.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia